Happy EEKtober, everybody. We are doing 31 days of scary movies, and today is day 22. I am your host, Melissa Forziat. I'm a keynote speaker. When I speak, my topic is Take the Doughnut, which is another way to say carpe diem. And that comes from this strange thing that happened to me in college where I left an actual donut on a table. And it became an object lesson for me and what it looks like to leave opportunity behind. So I don't want to do that anymore. I want to take the donut. Now, from time to time, I'll give myself a take the donut challenge. If there's something I want to do and I want to hold myself accountable, I'll make it official. But this time, I'm actually opening it up to anybody who wants to join. So here we are for 31 days of scary movies. And today, again, is day 22. And we are watching The Dark and the Wicked. This was from 2020, and it was written and directed by Brian Bertino. It's a supernatural film. Brian Bertino, by the way, when I think about the films on my list, Brian Bertino is the most represented of the 31 Days of Scary Movies, 33 films in total. And he also did The Monster and The Strangers. And if you liked this one, they're not all the same subgenre, but they all feel atmospheric. They all like the strengths of this film are, I think, also the strengths of the other films. So it might be worth checking them out, even if they're in different subgenres, if you liked this one. But first, this stars Marin Ireland as Louise, Michael Abbott Jr. as Michael. For a limited time, Julie Oliver Touchstone as Mother, Lynn Andrews as the nurse, Tom Nowicki as Charlie, and Michael Zaxt as the father. And I think this deserves some general notes to start off with because it's an interesting film, right? I mean, I really tried when I was curating a list of 31 days of scary movies, I really tried to find a balance of all different kinds of things. Years that the movies came out, subgenres, and ones that maybe had more action or more frenetic energy and stuff like this, which is much quieter, much more subdued. This is very slow paced. It actually reminds me, I don't know if you've ever seen this show, but there's a show called Rectify, and it's about a man who is released from prison because they find out there was a technicality in his case. So he's served a whole bunch of time, and yet he's like being let go, and it's like, go home, do what you will. And he doesn't really know how to be in society. So like a lot of those scenes are like, he looks at a tree and watches a branch fall, and you just watch it for like the whole cold open. And so this movie feels a little bit like that. But when it's sitting within the horror genre, that affords Brian Bertino some opportunities in terms of building tension. With the right sound design and the right pacing of things, you can get some jump scares out of it. So I think, he used it. I think he used it pretty effectively here. But this is just very slow paced. It really asks you to be looking everywhere in the frame every time you're seeing something, because you spend so much time looking at that frame and that camera shot that it's like, surely this is important and I need to be watching this and I can't miss anything. And then sometimes like something happens, and sometimes it doesn't. It moves on to the next scene, and you just have to see when it's going to be one or the other. And that's very much how I felt about The Strangers too, where it's like, you're seeing the whole thing. And in that situation, we were looking at a home invasion film. So sometimes the people were in the house or in the woods or on the swing or in the car. Like, you just never knew when somebody was going to turn up somewhere that you were meant to be looking. And so this makes you a really active participant, even though it moves so slowly. One of the great strengths for Brian Bertino is building atmosphere. And I especially noticed that with shots at night. The Monster, that movie, pretty much all at night, like at least all the tension-filled moments. And then, The Strangers also pretty much all overnight as well. So, he is really skilled at lighting things in a way where it's not so dark you can't see people. It's dark enough where you can create mystery, and things are lit in just the right places so that you can know what you're meant to be looking at in the frame. The other thing that I think really helps build atmosphere in this piece is the sound design behind it. So much of it is silence. Like, it's a very quiet film until he starts building in music and maybe some goat sounds or some animal sounds or some chimes. And the music sounds, it sort of progresses again, similar to how The Strangers did, but with different sounds. This sort of has a progression where you might start with that tinkly piano music, the very soft, friendly piano music, not too friendly, but it might escalate. And by the time things get to a real frenzy, by the time something really horrible is on our screens, you're going to get like this really aggressive string music, and then it'll stop and you'll start the cycle over again. And he manages to create a pattern with that, I find. So some really just the other thing that really struck me is like the music. There is a song that plays a couple times on a record player, but for the most part, most of the music, especially when it gets to the more like frenzied stuff, it's just like noise and sounds. And it kind of reminds me of The Shining at certain parts, where it's just like a really cacophonous noise and you have to sort of get through it. Um, so all of this, I think, really helps contribute to, look, it's weird for me to say this because I don't find that I get scared by scary movies very much. I'm pretty desensitized to them. But I think this probably has some good jump scares in it, right? No, there definitely are some attempts at jump scares, and they almost get me. In fact, I think the last time I had a jump scare moment was watching this film, but it was a while ago, so I only vaguely remember those moments now when I'm watching it back. But I do think that because of the way this film is built, that it has some unexpected moments, especially moments when something goes away and you think that was the one scare, and then something comes back or something new comes in. So yeah, just a really interesting film all around. And let's talk a little bit about some of the scenes. I mean, to describe them might not be that interesting actually, because it's a lot of like short active descriptions. But we start off, we're going to get farm shots. We're in a farm. I believe this is either used to be or is Brian Bertino's parents' farm, that where they actually shot. We're going to see a dark room, very dark person, and what might be statues at first. You can't quite make it out. You hear a woman singing. She seems to be like a seamstress, tailor of her own stuff, of stuff for the people in town. She's got, it turns out, a lot of mannequins, and she's making dresses. She hears chimes outside, and she's going to go to the sound. The door shuts, and we're going to get just partial lighting of a mannequin face. So you don't really know where to look and what we're looking for in the beginning of this. So like, you don't know how important a face might be. Turns out it may or may not be, right? Given what's actually happening in this house. So she's going to go out, she's going to check the animal. Looks like there are a lot of goats out there. She's going to walk through, they have like this whole string of like chimes and hooks, things that are meant to make noise if any of the animals get out or something gets in, so that they can go look for what's happening and fix the problem. But yeah, it doesn't seem like anything's disrupting them now. She sort of calms them. She's going to walk back alone on a dark and windy night. And then she's going to check on her sick husband, because she's been caretaking for her very sick husband, who seems to be towards the end of his life, but is on his, I guess, his deathbed. We know by the end of this film. Getting some simple piano music here. She's going to go back to work, and she's startled by some howling. So all of this is a signal to us of some things to maybe watch out for later, because we don't know why she's scared. But these are the cues for us for later. We are going to see some goats. We're going to see hear some more loud chimes, and the goats now are going to be startled back. They get very quiet and they stare, but we don't know what they're staring at. So there is, in fact, something bothering them. We're going to go inside the house. This house, one of the things that's pretty prominent in the decor is that there are skulls of animals and their horns on the wall. That probably has a really official name. I don't think it's taxidermy, it's something else. So you tell me. We are going to get that same woman cutting some onions. She hears what feels like a roaring sound, and then we cut to the dark and the wicked. Just to disrupt us with some credits. But really, it's just mostly just the name that's supposed to startle us. Now we're going to start counting this by day. So we start on Monday. The sun is coming up. The animals are roving around. Louise, daughter of the woman we just saw, she comes over to her parents' house. The mother is taking care of the father, and a nurse is there. The mother's like, yeah, you shouldn't have come. Told you, you should not have come. But Louise did. Louise came. Now, Louise is also going to visit with Charlie and Michael. Charlie helps with the animals. Michael is the son, or Louise's brother, however you want to refer to him. Both Michael and Louise think mom looks pretty bad. It's been a minute since they saw her, but she, caretaking is not serving her very well. We're going to show a shot of a field to see just how isolated we are, even compared to the other neighbors around. And then we're going to see Mother, Louise, and Michael all having dinner together. Mother is eerily quiet. I mean, you can barely get a word out of her. And, Louise is like, you've got more animals, like more babies. And she's like, yeah, we keep working. That's what we do. Michael says, it's going to be okay. She says, what's going to be okay? What do you think is going to be okay here? She starts crying and then she says, go home. She says it assertively. She wants them out. She wants to save them. She leaves. Louise and Michael are having a drink outside. Louise is like, that's weird. What's up with her? Louise hasn't seen really any of them in a while. Michael has a family, we find out. He left them back home so that he could deal with this himself. And he says, we can't leave Mother alone here. We have to be here for this. So we're going to see Mother watching TV in bed with Father. Michael is going to shower. Louise is going to lock up. I mean, we're talking like descriptions are just actions at this point. But I hope you'll start to feel like the pacing of the movie at some point as well. We're going to get a lot of what we're seeing here is very slow panning of the camera. Louise hears the front door creak, and it's open, but she just locked up. So that's, once again, not a thing that should be the case. She closes it again, everything happening so slowly at this point. It's like, what are we meant to be seeing? We're going to get the sound of a very loud TV as Mother stands in the doorway of the bedroom. We weren't expecting her to be standing there. It's like a slow jump scare. Louise says, no, it's fine. It's the wind. And Mother looks towards the door because she doesn't think it's just the wind. She probably is seeing or hearing something out there. Louise is then going to smoke outside. Michael's reading in the kitchen and Mother's cutting vegetables. And she's going to once again encourage Michael to go, listen to your mother, Michael. She knows what she's talking about. She's like, it's not what you think. What's not what they think? She keeps cutting the carrot. And then we're going to see like a bunch of people in bed sleeping. We're going to see Mother still up cutting a carrot. She keeps cutting and she starts to hear creaking. She stops and she listens. She keeps cutting and then she cuts more and more aggressively. And the music is becoming more and more fervent until she has cut her fingers off and she's crying. And then she keeps cutting her fingers. Her fingers are cut off and now she's dicing them and she's making them into smaller pieces. She's mashing them up pretty much. And then we're going to get Tuesday. I will say, as much as I'm desensitized to most horror, body horror is like, it grosses me out really. As do medical traumas, as do, just let's keep things intact, shall we? But that's not what she's doing. She's cutting off her fingers. So Tuesday, I mean, it couldn't have ended well, right? And it didn't seem like she was in an appropriate amount of pain for the damage she was inflicting on herself. So there's a lot that we need to be skeptical about. On Tuesday, we're going to see some blood under the floor, on the floor under the chair that she was sitting in. There's nobody in the kitchen. There is blood and fingers all over. And Michael and Louise run out of the house calling for her. The father is still in bed asleep. And the kids are looking for their mom everywhere. And then we're going to see a really interesting shot. Louise is outside the barn. The camera's set up inside the barn. We're seeing sort of everything is backlit here. At first, we're just looking at Louise, but the camera pulls back and back and back and back until we see legs hanging in the foreground. Mother hung herself. And Louise finds her and runs to her, which means she's running closer to us, closer to the camera. The animals run out. Louise is trying to hold up her mom. Michael comes in, they cut her down, and I mean, she's definitely dead. She's been there for, I'm sure, a very long time. And now it's Wednesday. Louise and Michael are solemn in the kitchen. Louise is smoking, and, Mother's chair is empty. One less person in this house. We're going to see Charlie come over. He's feeding the animals. Louise and Michael sit at their dad's bedside, and the nurse comes in. She says, okay, so I don't know. I wasn't going to say this, but I didn't know if it was my place. Look, your mother was saying things. She was talking when she didn't think I was listening, and I didn't like what she was saying. Like, she'd sit beside your dad whispering, but not talking to him. There was somebody there. There was somebody else here. I thought it would be better with family close by, but here we are. Like, clearly that's not the case. So, the nurse is a day nurse, and Louise says, okay, well, you know what? I'm going to stay overnight with dad. This is what they wanted. They wanted him to be in this house. And so that is what we will facilitate. So the new sleeping arrangement is going to be that Louise is going to sleep in bed with her dad, and Michael is going to get his own room. Louise goes to her mom's clothing workshop, and she sees all the mannequins, and then she uncovers one of the mannequins and she sees a wedding dress there for her. It's very touching. One of the last projects her mom worked on. We're going to see Charlie, Michael, and Louise taking care of the animals. And then Louise sees something. She walks out to a graveyard for a bunch of dead animals. Apparently, some of them have been dying, and Charlie has been burying them. What has been killing them, though, is the question. Louise says to Michael, that nurse, what was mom, who was she talking to? Michael says, it doesn't matter. She made herself die, and it's not going to make sense. That's it. Don't try to make it make sense. Louise says, we should have talked to her. Michael's like, we didn't. It's done. We're going to get some sunset over the lake, and Louise is going to shower, and the door creaks. She pulls back the curtain, and she sees her dad standing there, just the whites of his eyes, and he's urinating down his leg. And she starts screaming. He is basically having a seizure while standing up. And she just cowers in the shower. She's screaming. Michael finds her, but he doesn't see dad. So whatever it is she is seeing, he's not getting the same thing. They go and check on their dad. Yep, he's in bed asleep, he's in just as ill, bad health as he was before. Definitely cannot stand. Certainly not awake. Louise says he was in there. She doesn't want to talk about it. She's just going to go smoke. She's feeling really stupid. And then Michael, he says like, all right, I'm going to watch dad. And he takes a step and he finds a book under dad's bed. So Michael's going to join Louise outside with this book. And it turns out it's mom's diary, where she's been putting her innermost thoughts, because that's what you do with the diary. And he reads to the last page. He just goes to the last page, and he's reading her words. And he's saying, I know he's there in the darkness. Help me, please. He's killing David. He can't breathe. There's nothing I can do to stop it. Devil, devil, devil. He wants David's soul. I mean, this is alarming. I think you might agree. And also, she's not a particularly religious person. So the kids are wondering about this. Thursday, Michael and Louise are in the barn. Louise has the diary in her hands. Michael's kind of looking around. He's looking up at where mom hung herself. And he's like, how did she get up there? Like, she moved the tub. How'd she move the tub? Louise says, I don't know. She starts reading the diary. It says, voices in my head, his voice. He makes me want to die. I locked the door, but he came inside my room. I want David to wake up. I grab his hand and squeeze it. Wake up. He climbs on the bed. He hurts David. I see him. He laughs at me. He kills me. I'm already dead. I mean, you'd think the nurse would have said something about this. This isn't a casual thing. But yeah, this is definitely something to be worried about. They don't understand what's happening here. Louise and Michael want to get some answers. They're going to go to the coroner. They're going to see their mom's body, try to make some sense of things. She had some crosses in her pocket. They don't know where she would have gotten the crosses because, once again, she wasn't religious. They are gonna, Michael sees her chopped fingers exposed and he just covers those up, doesn't want to see that. Meanwhile, Louise is going to take care of her dad. He coughs and a spider comes out of his mouth. She tries to brush it off. She's trying to get it off of him. Michael comes in. She's like, "Oh, I saw a spider. It's not here anymore." Okay, so she's having visions, and we're going to see the same spider later on another character. Louise is in the kitchen. Michael's going to go to bed at this point. Louise is going to see a bit of leftover blood that they didn't get when they were cleaning up. It's still there. She's going to clean it up on the sink. And then she smokes outside. She hears some howling. We've heard howling before. It's a sound, one of the sounds that the mother heard the first night. We also get some piano, very tinkly music there. Everybody's asleep, and a light comes on in Michael's room. He wakes up, there's nobody there. So he's going to go shut it off. He's going to go back to bed. Light comes on again. Nobody there. So he's going to check the exterior door from inside his room. And he sees, he looks long enough and he sees his mother standing in the yard, levitating and smiling at him. And we hear her singing voice inside, and then she's not outside anymore. And he's going to walk through the house, or he's going to walk further into his room, and we're going to see his mother sort of standing by the door, sort of in the dark. Very slow jump scare, but not really. And then the lights come on again, and his mother is right behind him. And he doesn't see it, only we see it. So it's a jump scare just for us. All right, Friday. Louise is going to wake up and she's going to go to the bathroom and she sees, is this blood smeared on my face? And now she's worried because she's been sleeping next to her dad. So is he bleeding? She goes to check him in bed. He's not bleeding, but there's lipstick. There's a tube of lipstick right next to her, or right next to him. The phone rings. Louise answers. This phone number is disconnected, is what the voice says, except she didn't make a call. The phone rings again. Her mother's voice says, "Told you not to come." She starts looking around. Now we're getting all kinds of signs of their mother being in this house. Michael is going to drive back to the place from wherever he just was, maybe taking care of the animals. And he's going to see a priest, but he doesn't know this priest. The priest is going to give him a cross. He's like, "Oh, you must be Michael." And he's going to come over to the house and he's going to read their mother's diary, and they want answers. They're like, "Look, she never believed in God. Mama thought the devil was here, but she's not a believer. So what is this? You explain it to us. What did you say to her?" And Michael's, the priest is like, "Well, I told her the truth." Michael's like, "You told her your truth is what you did." The priest says, "Well, it's the same for you. I mean, you have your truth. I have mine." Michael says, "Yeah, you need to go. Leave. We're going to get like a storm that's really brewing outside, starting to crack a bit." The priest says, "Look, she needed somebody. She was alone. I didn't do that." The priest thinks about their dad a lot. Michael drives home from wherever he just was. He might have been working with the animals. That's what he tends to be doing when he's away from their place. And he sees a priest that he doesn't recognize. He doesn't really recognize any priests because they're not a particularly religious family. The priest is like, "Oh, you must be Michael." He gives him a cross. And the priest is going to come over to the house. He's going to read their mother's diary. And they frankly want answers because their mother never believed in God, and their mom thought the devil was there. She didn't believe in that either. So what gives, man? What did you say to her? And the priest is like, "Told her the truth." And Michael said, "Well, you told her your truth." And he's like, "You need to go." He wants this. He doesn't like the vibes he's getting from this priest. He wants the priest out. The storm is sort of cracking a little bit. And the priest is like, "Look, she needed somebody. She was alone. And how's your dad? I think about him a lot. Michael says, you tell me you think the devil's out there. The priest says, I think he's already here. And the priest is going to leave. It's dinner time now. And Louise is going to go to the barn at night. Michael's on the phone with his wife, and he's, just catching her up on things. Like, I can't tell what Louise wants to do, but I want to come home. And I miss mom. Louise is sitting out in the barn looking at the cut rope that's on the ceiling where the noose used to be. Michael's still on the phone. He's like, I just don't feel anything. It doesn't feel like anybody feels anything here. We get people screaming or we get them numb to pain. And that's sort of the levels that we get to and how eerie it is. Louise is walking among the animals and she's reading the diary, and Michael's asking his wife about the kids. So Louise continues to read the diary. He is watching. He waits. He is everywhere. The chimes chime loudly. And we're going to see a shadow on the barn wall behind her that she can't see. Michael and Louise are going to sit on the porch reading the diary. They're really paying attention to their mom's last words, sort of. Louise is like, she wasn't crazy. I'm not crazy, because what if she saw something? Michael says, yeah, well, I saw something and I'm scared. He points, he's like, mom was standing right there last night and it wasn't her. And he leaves out some important information, like she was levitating. She was smiling. Yeah, I mean, those are some things. Okay, so the next morning, Michael's going to wake up to howling at 3 a.m. Something's scraping outside. Louise hears it too, and they're going to watch the front door. Louise actually goes to the door, and the priest is there. The priest says, come outside. Michael opens the door, come on, what are you doing? They obviously have not seen horror movies. The priest is standing in darkness. The light is not on his face. Very much felt like a stranger's reference right there. Priest says, come outside, come outside. He starts laughing. It's getting weirder. Louise is going to shine a light on his face. And like with her dad in the bathroom, only the whites of his eyes are showing. The priest says, do you want some rope? The phone rings, and the priest is gone. The phone rings again. Louise answers, and she hangs up and pulls it out of the wall. We're going to get these like calls coming in twos sort of situation. All right, Charlie has been trying to call them, though. It's unfortunate that she pulled the phone out of the wall, because Charlie actually kind of needs them right now. He's hearing something at his door. He's going to grab his gun. He sees a vision of Louise in a dress. And it's a Louise that's whispering demonically and stabbing at herself. And Charlie is like, what do you want? And he's crying, and it screams like right next to his face. And this demonic Louise says, you did this to me, and slits her throat. And then Charlie is possessed by this demon and kills himself. He shoots himself. So everybody's seeing something. Interesting to me that he sees Louise, who is still alive. I don't know. The visions that people see are so that, kind of random seeming. Like seeing the mother made sense, but seeing Louise now, and like the priest, we're going to find out there isn't a priest. There's a priest out there, but he is in no way associated with this family. So it is interesting, the mix of people who are seeing the demon sort of take the form of. All right, we're going to get Michael and Louise saying they can't reach Charlie because he's dead. The animals need help, but they're not going to get it. Not from Charlie anyway. Louise wants to bring the dad to the hospital because she's starting to feel like, I don't know that I can be taking care of him anymore. This is too much. And she says, the priest's face, did you see it? So Louise is going to call the priest because he gave her his contact information. And she's like, I'm Louise. You came to see us in Texas, Thurber, Texas. We're the ones that we were the ones with the mom and the diary. He's like, I'm in Chicago. I have no idea what you're talking about. She's like, no, I'm Louise. He's like, yeah, I have a daughter. Well, I had a daughter who was named Louise and she committed suicide. So, like, what are you doing? And so she's really upsetting him. She just hangs up. It's kind of interesting. I don't know. I am curious why this particular man, why this character to be possessed, like for the demon to take his form. Um, so the doctor is going to come to see their dad, and he's like, yeah, he's going to have to stay here. I'm not moving him. He's way too weak. He won't make it to the hospital, and I'm not killing him. So they're too late, right? It's like you're out of luck. You're going to need to keep watching him at night. The animals are walking the grounds with Michael, but no Charlie. And then Michael and the nurse are going to spend time with dad. Michael's like, you know, you have an interesting job. You see people at their weakest. Nurse says, you know what, though? I see a lot of love. She says, the worst thing, though, is for a person to die alone. Michael says, you know, mom thought something wicked was coming for him, or mom thought something was coming for him. Nurse says, I can see your fear. It's in this house for sure. I believe, though, in God. I think there are horrible things in this world. They're wicked and they come for whoever they want. But there's love here, and a soul needs love to keep it safe. So, a speech like this coming nearer to the end of the film makes you feel like maybe there's some sort of redemption set for a house where there's some love. It makes you think like maybe when Louise stays at the end, perhaps it might not turn out so bad, but it does. A fun little turn for this movie to make. So we're going to see a one-legged goat running. It's bloody. And Michael finds it, and then Michael and Louise are going to go out and find just so many dead. Pretty much all of their animals are dead. Every goat. So they have to start taking care of them, like getting rid of them, burning the bodies. Michael's going to call another doctor tomorrow. He's like, this has to be done. We can't be in this house anymore. Louise is like, she told us not to come. Why didn't we listen to mom? You spend all this time reading her diary and then pay no attention to her words. What do you want, folks? They are going to burn the bodies of the goats at night. We're going to hear drums behind that, which I don't remember hearing drums before this in the film. So if they were there, I didn't register it. Dad is asleep, and there Michael and Louise are sitting on the porch. Michael goes to take care of the rest of the animals' bodies. And he asks Louise to stay with dad. He's like, you know what? Don't leave that soul alone. Can't do it. The nurse suggested it. He wants to forget about this place. They're both really scared at this point. Too many weird things have happened. A lot of deaths today. So Michael's taking care of the animals. Louise is reading the diary, and Michael's going to get a call from Becky, his wife, but then he hears all the chimes go off like really loudly, and the barn is empty. So what is happening here? He's going to get his knife. He's shouting to try to scare the intruder away, whoever it might be. And then he hears demonic moaning and his mother singing. He sees his mother starting to walk towards him from a distance, and she breaks all the way through the chimes. She's naked. She's rotting. And Michael's like, you're not real. Mm-mm. She gets in his face, and then she's gone. And now nothing is in the barn with him until we get a little bit of a jump scare here where she comes up behind him fast and she whispers in his ear. He falls back and he gets this close to slitting his own throat. He fights the urge, but just barely. And we're not even really sure if he's fighting the urge or if the voice is telling him to, his like changed its mind and it wants to just control him and get him to do something different. So Michael is going to come back into the house. He looks absolutely terrified. We've got this shot of him sitting on the bed with sort of like that, one of those animal skull heads on the wall behind him. And he has a switchblade in his hand, and he keeps looking back at Louise's room. So he hasn't slit his own throat, but now you're feeling nervous for Louise. The door opens to the room that Louise and Dad are sleeping in, and a light hits the edge of Louise's pillow. And we can see a shadow of a hand starting to come into where that light is. We hear breathing. We hear creaking sounds. Louise wakes up sort of slowly, very slowly. You want her to wake up faster, but she's not. And then something physically gets on the bed. Louise, her body actually moves because something is getting on the bed with them, but not over her, over her father. She's turned away from her dad, and she can hear something sniffing her dad. She can hear animal sounds. She's terrified. And the camera is now going to start turning. So we saw her on her side, and now the camera is going to join her. And so it looks like she's right side up. And she turns over, and her dad isn't even there. So she's like, where did he go? Where did he go? Like, he can't move. What is she seeing? She looks up, and he's on the ceiling, face down, reaching for her. So we're going to get a voice that says, run away. And she wakes up screaming with her dad next to her asleep. Seems like things are escalating here a bit, right? So we're on Sunday now. And this is pretty much the last day we're going to be looking at. Louise breathes in deeply. She woke up screaming. That's where we left off, and we're picking up right from there again. Her dad's throat has a scratch on it. She's walking through the house. She's calling for Michael. She can't find him. There's a knock on the door. There's a girl's voice, a young girl. She introduces herself as Charlie's granddaughter. She says, we've been calling. Grandpa died. He shot himself. Louise is devastated. She's like, what? He was alive. No. Louise says, you know what? She hears her dad coughing. She's like, come inside. I need to take care of my dad. Louise really wants her to come in, and the young girl won't step foot over the threshold for some reason. And then she starts to get a little weird herself. She says, do you smell him? I bet you do. I smell him too. He's close now. And she's smiling. She's like, he's rotting. Okay. Probably not a young girl. Probably another demon, or the same demon in a different body. Louise tells her to leave. Like, I told you to come in. Now I'm telling you not to. But she's already gone. Oh, no, she's inside. She's inside right behind Louise. He's rotting all alone, all alone, all alone. And her voice and eyes become more and more demonic. And then she's like, little girl. And Louise is going to fall back, and the demon disappears. Side note, this is a slightly older version of the little girl from The Monster. So, another actor that Brian Bertino has used in more than one film. We've seen that happen with Scott Speedman and the films that we've covered in 31 days of scary movies here for EEKtober. Louise is going to call Michael. She's like, we have to get dad out. The nurse comes in. She's like, whoa, it's really bad in here. She lights a candle. She starts to pray. That's not going to help her, not one bit. Michael is driving home. He does answer Louise's call. He's like, look, I'm sorry. I'm driving home. She's like, you left me? He says, I drove all night. I couldn't stay. They need me at home. And I knew that you would stay. The nurse is hearing Louise as she's freaking out. She keeps just saying, you left me? The nurse starts to smile a little. Oh no, another person being possessed. So Michael is saying, look, I love Becky and my girls. Louise is like, you left me. Our nurse, who was knitting something, now holds up her knitting needles and looks like something terrible is about to happen. She's crying. There's a spider that runs across her face, the same one that was on the dad before. Michael says, look, we can't change this. We don't matter. And it won't wait much longer. So save yourself. And he hangs up. He figures he escaped and he's fine. The nurse screams. She has stabbed herself in the face, like all the way through the cheek with one of her knitting needles. And she keeps stabbing herself all over her body. And the nurse is saying, why don't you hear him? Listen. She assaults Louise. She starts dragging Louise. She's crying. She's like, I hear you. You're with me. Jesus, I feel you. The nurse stabs one eye, then the other eye of her own. She's screaming. The blood is dripping. And she a little bit smiles because people can't feel pain when they're possessed by the devil. And she collapses, just face plants on the floor. Now we need to see what's up with Michael. Look, we've seen Charlie be killed far from this home. So any chance that Michael got far enough away that the demons can't get to him anymore? Michael enters his home. There's a record on, little reminder of the strangers again. Becky and the kids are not there. He can't find them. Their beds are unmade. And then he looks in the kitchen. His kids are at the breakfast table. Their throats are slit. They're bleeding onto their breakfast plates. And the wife is on the floor, dead. She also slit her own throat, and she has a knife in her hand. And now he's so devastated, plus he's possessed. And so he is going to take a knife, his own pocket knife, and he's crying, and he slits his own throat, and he's dying on the floor. And then he unsees the vision. Nobody is actually there. None of his family members have been killed. He just killed himself for no reason at all. And he dies on the floor, and his wife and kids come home and see him dead. What a turn of events. So the phone rings now, and Louise is going to wake up. Her dad is wheezing. Louise is saying, I'm sorry. She needs to get out of this house. She stumbles out the front door. She falls down the stairs. She wants to go. She wants to save herself. But she hears her dad cough, and she's just pained at this. She can't leave him alone. She just can't do it. We're going to get that tinkly piano music. And right about now, we're thinking of what the nurse said. Like, you just have to have love at the end. You've got to have love. Love conquers all. Louise goes back into the house to be with her dad as he dies, and she hears someone shout, Louise, it's Michael. She's like, Michael? She hears Michael say, help me, and then his voice becomes more and more demonic. And then she shouts, get away, and the candle flickers. Her dad takes his last breaths. She says, I love you. I won't leave you. And you think for sure, this is the saving grace. This is the power of love. You know, it'll save her. She sobs when he dies. She hears her mama singing. And then we get the last jump scare of her dad grabbing her from behind. Surely that's not her dad. And surely she doesn't survive this film, right? I mean, goodness, what a mess. Talk about the carnage. This film, huge body count, just massive. I mean, I think there are some people who were possessed who were actually alive, like the priest, maybe the little girl. But all in all, you'll be hard pressed to find some characters in this film who come out of this looking okay. So, I mean, look, it's such an interesting film. It's so slow. It's very dialogue light. It's very description heavy, very action heavy, very sort of simple in its movements. But at the end of it all, you know, I think all of that serves to build a tension that, you know, it is just part of the ambiance, part of the atmosphere that's being created. I think it's super clever, very patient, and really trusts its audience to want to be in that patience with it, to sit in that patience. And so that's what I thought about The Dark and the Wicked. What did you think about The Dark and the Wicked? Let me know in the comments what you thought about this film. And while you're there, here's what I really want to ask. Look, my scary meter is busted. I've watched so many horror movies that I can't even really judge how scary they are anymore. I'm desensitized to them. This is where I need you. So in order to make better recommendations to other people, we need to know how scary these films are. Look at your scary meter out and rate this film from 1 to 10 in terms of how scary you think it is. 1 being not scary, 10 being the scariest, and anywhere in between. And let's see where we land in terms of an average on this one. And next time we're going to watch, it's going to be day 23, and we're going to watch a movie called In Fear. It's a 2013 psychological stalker film. Another one of those unrelenting ones in a totally different way from this one. And I'm looking forward to covering that one. I don't think a lot of people have heard of that film. I'm guessing. I don't think it's super well known. And I'm really excited to get everybody's thoughts on it. So I hope you'll join me for that one. Happy EEKtober, everybody. Get spooky, get donuts.